The solar system is gradually becoming quite a lively place. Humanity had barely recovered from the sudden invasion of 3I Atlas when a new visitor appeared, C2025 V1 Borisov. But is it really a comet? A similar question arises when observing 3I Atlas. Telescopes see it as a smoky sphere with no hint of a tail. Very strange, isn't it? Moreover, it behaves like an artificial object. Everything, from the incredible acceleration to the controlled exhaust, like that of a shuttle, clearly suggests that we have a visitor from a more advanced civilization. Perhaps 2025 V1, Borisov is somehow connected to 3I Atlas. What exactly about the new visitor's behavior is making scientists uneasy? First, the object is moving at a very high speed. Second, although V1 is initially classified as a comet, it looks very much like something strange, as if it were artificially created. Gillertor detects abnormal gas emissions, including carbon monoxide and a huge amount of dust. Third, and this is the most important thing at the moment, V1 Borisov is the fourth potentially interstellar object to visit the solar system. You might ask, what's so surprising about this? After all, we're ordinary participants in the cosmic dance, and space routes pass through our star system as well. But throughout the entire history of astronomical observations, scientists have recorded only 4 interstellar objects, 2 of which appeared this year. We don't think it's a coincidence. By the way, doubts about the natural origin of both interstellar objects are not unique to us and everyone who has basic analytical skills. Professor of Natural Sciences at Harvard University, astrophysicist Abraham Avi Loeb, has been trying to draw the attention of the scientific community and the public to a number of oddities and anomalies associated with 3I Atlas and V1 ever since the appearance of interstellar artifacts. However, scientists fight to the end, skillfully refuting almost every assumption made by Loeb. But there are some oddities that cannot be explained by anything. Could it be that we have finally encountered extraterrestrial intelligence? First, let's recall what both objects are in terms of their physical characteristics. 3I Atlas is an interstellar visitor discovered on July 1, 2025 by a Chilean telescope, after which it was named. It is classified as a comet. But what if it's an alien visitor? The emissions of dust and gas, as well as the presence of a coma, definitely suggest something extraordinary. But why was it classified as an interstellar object? This happened because of its hyperbolic trajectory, which indicates that the huge elongated boulder, several kilometers in diameter, came from the thick galactic disk. Some scientists believe that it could pose a threat to Earth. What can you tell us about Comet C2025 V1 Borisov? The object was discovered on November 2nd, 2025 by the same amateur astronomer who found 2I Borisov in 2019. Whether this comet qualifies as an interstellar object is currently a subject of heated debate, since its trajectory is conditionally hyperbolic. However, it is quite possible that the visitor came from the Oort cloud, which is located in the solar system. If that's the case, then although the comet came from far away, it's registered in the local region, so it can't be considered interstellar. In general, scientists have not yet determined whether this comet has a tail. So far, a bright tail has not been observed, but astronomers expect it to appear when the object gets closer to the sun. What can be said about the approach of V1 and Earth? Unlike the previous object, the comet will approach us at a distance of less than 1 astronomical unit, meaning it will be closer than the sun. The approach will take place around November 25, 2025, and it is also considered absolutely safe for humanity. Some people try to dismiss the arguments of the mentioned Harvard professor Avi Loeb as speculation, attempts to attract attention, and to create hype around a popular topic. However, it's simply impossible to ignore many of the facts. For example, in his numerous interviews, as well as articles on the well-known online platform Medium, the astrophysicist highlights certain properties of these objects that force us to consider the technological hypothesis. Let's start with 3I Atlas, and its first peculiarity is non-gravitational acceleration. Simply put, the object is moving too fast, and it's absolutely unclear what's causing it to speed up like that. Usually, comets experience this kind of acceleration due to asymmetric gas and dust jets, which causes them to lose a significant amount of mass, up to 5 billion tons per month. But 3I Atlas, according to measurements from the James Webb Telescope, lost only 150 kilograms during the observation period, and that's 1,000 times less than what was expected at such a speed. In general, to reach such speed parameters, you would need a gas cloud the size of our moon, but instruments don't observe any structure like that. In short, Avi Loeb believes there's a 40% chance this object is of artificial origin, and its acceleration can be explained by the presence of an engine. What is the second oddity, 3I Atlas, that cannot be explained by traditional science? Why are not only Avi Loeb but also other astrophysicists starting to doubt that this is an ordinary comet and not an alien probe? Even though the object approached the sun at a distance of 600 million kilometers, it still doesn't stand a chance. A clear tale. Why? A comet is a large snowball made of dirt and ice. That's why, as soon as such objects feel the warmth of a star, the evaporation process immediately starts and pushes out gases along with dust. That's exactly why we periodically observe spectacular sparkling tails millions of kilometers long. This is the standard behavior of 99.9% of all comets. With 3I Atlas telescopes, only identify a blurry glowing sphere without a visible tail. Isn't that strange? Maybe there's no tail because a shell protects the object's surface from heating. In other words, the visitor is actually artificial in nature. If you add to this the straight, non-dispersing jets, similar to the controlled exhaust of a space shuttle, and the unreasonably high level of carbon monoxide too, not necessarily. It's quite an unusual picture, even shocking. Could it be that a Trojan horse disguised as a comet is a greeting from another, more advanced civilization? What oddities did astrophysicist Avi Loeb notice while observing the flight of the new interstellar visitor C2025 V1 Borisov? In this case, scientists are more cautious and place the object at the lowest level on the probability scale regarding technological origin. However, it is impossible not to note the eccentric behavior of this comet. Again, among the oddities is the absence of a tail, which astronomers still hope to see later. It is noteworthy that the discovery of the object coincided with the appearance of 3I Atlas at perihelion, and this sparked a wave of new hypotheses. One of them suggests a connection between the two objects, as if hinting that V1 could be a reconnaissance probe launched from 3I Atlas. Despite the apparent absurdity of this assumption, the strange coincidence is hard to ignore, especially considering the closer contact V1 will have with Earth in the future. But what is the main argument indicating the artificial nature of 3I Atlas? Undoubtedly, it is the recorded radio signal coming from this object. In September 2025, several Earth observatories conduct radio observations of the artifact that arrived to us from an unknown place and for an unknown purpose. By the way, Avi Loeb has been urging from the very beginning to closely scan the object, since its trajectory coincides with the direction of the famous WOW signal of 1977. And now it's November 14, 2025. Observatories did indeed detect a narrowband signal at a frequency close to the hydrogen line, which is used by the network in the search for extraterrestrial intelligence and interstellar communication. Why is the signal specifically narrowband? The thing is, Broadband noise is usually only detected from stars. Why do we hear this sound, since a radio signal can only be detected with the help of stars? Did you listen to the converted fragment compiled from radio waves, temperature graphs, and precise calculations? Do National Aeronautics and Space Administration specialists agree to classify this signal as evidence of the artificial origin of 3I Atlas? Absolutely not. They do not find any anomalies in the signal spectrum that would indicate its artificial origin or encoding. Therefore, the scientists at the well-known space agency stand by their conclusion. Everything we observe is standard cometary chemistry. And who should we believe? The irrefutable proof should come from high-resolution images taken by the HiRISE camera, which is installed on board an orbiter flying around Mars. The photographs were taken on October 2, when 3I Atlas was 29 million kilometers from the red planet. In this case, according to calculations, these are the minimum possible values. Let's compare in the photo. Is it true that they are so narrowly directed and not fan-shaped like all comets with a precisely measured nucleus? In any case, we need to observe, not guess, as Loeb urges. What if this is the so-called black swan? What does this concept mean in the context of strange interstellar visitors appearing in the solar system? Until the 17th century, it was believed that black swans did not exist. But in 1693, researchers in Australia discovered them, and this completely shattered centuries-old beliefs, changing biology as a science. Since then, black swan has become a concept that means we are witnessing an extremely rare event with unexpected, far-reaching, and not always favorable consequences. Who knows? Maybe the arrival of 3I Atlas and the second Borisov comet will transform everything in our civilization, from the economy and politics to science and the lives of billions of people. Will the world never be the same again? At the moment, based on available scientific data and the opinion of National Aeronautics and Space Administration experts, the chances that the 3I Atlas object is artificial are extremely low. What are Harvard astrophysicist Loeb's opponents' arguments based on? First of all, they point to the lack of maneuvering by this object and the natural origin of the radio signals. If images from the camera of the Mars orbiter show a fan-shaped coma around U3I Atlas, the chances of the object being artificial will drop to almost zero. And yet, what will happen if it turns out to be an alien probe? What could its goals be? Most likely, reconnaissance supporters of Avi Loeb's theory have been seriously discussing the landing of drone probes near Earth for observing human activity, since the appearance of Viva Bu and Borisov. But what if it's a Trojan horse? Then perhaps the object poses a hidden threat and is maneuvering around Earth by indirect routes, disguising itself as a comet and planning a sudden attack. However, right now, no one knows anything for sure. So for now, all assumptions about a technological origin are just speculation. At the moment, we observe that both objects do not actually pose any threat to Earth and will soon leave the boundaries of the solar system.